Want to score some pot?
The government has decided to upgrade cannabis. That doesn't mean they're going to make it better. It means they'll make it a Class B drug again, because that policy was so successful in reducing drug-taking last time. Oh yeah, that's right, it wasn't. Still, if at first you don't succeed, keep doing the same thing over and over so you can watch it fail forever. We need to send out the right message, they say, as though anyone's listening. You'll think you've smoked a whole garden's worth if you tune into children's TV on the BBC. It's full of psychedelic, multicoloured, amorphous shapes talking gibberish, like the chill-out lounge at a rave. But all is not well in Trumpton. There's a show called In the Night Garden, where brightly coloured characters spout nonsense to send children to sleep. They're called Iggle Piggle and Upsy Daisy and Macca Packer. Not Macca Parker. That's Paul McCartney in a coat. The thing is, the Beavers stopped showing it at babies' bedtime, and parents are complaining that their infants are refusing to go to bed because they haven't seen their show yet. The phrase, go to bed, not in their lexicon. Appeasement didn't work with Hitler, and it doesn't work with toddlers, either. Come on, mums, just say no. It won't be the end of the world. That's in May. According to a Russian religious group who have lived underground for the last 6 months, after a quick chat with God revealed that a hail of brimstone, which is my least favourite type of stone, will flatten the planet next month. Unfortunately, the sky has fallen in on them a little early, as the spring thaw made their cave fall in. So they popped off to a nearby church to await doomsday in comfort with their swivel-eyed leader. Goodness knows what he's been smoking, but he's definitely not sending out the right message. Insane in the brain. Boy! The stuff people complain about. Have you ever complained to, a TV company or a radio company or the newspapers or, any media organisation? The things that possess people to start writing a letter, usually in green ink, crayons, if available, and post it off in the little letterbox there, is quite staggering. Like, I'll just give you this thing about the BBC. I mean, what are these people never heard of a video recorder? The BBC has been inundated with complaints from angry parents of toddlers after it scrapped bedtime transmissions of In the Night Garden, one of its most popular children's shows. And all of these shows, they all look like the Teletubbies in, like one of these fairground mirrors. They're either a little bit thinner or a little bit fatter, but they're all the same. They're all just big, fluffy, colourful characters going like that. No thought required. Hundreds of millions of pounds pouring in to each and every one of these silly inventions. Oh, we're wasting our time here. All we have to do is come up with some of this nonsense. Sell it around the world, and we'll be putting our feet up and smoking a cigar for the rest of our lives. Designed to relax under fives before bed, In the Night Garden is a slightly surreal series in the mould of Teletubbies, featuring chants and nonsense talk by brightly coloured characters such as Iggle Piggle, Upsy Daisy and Macca Packer, who's Lacka Wacka's brother. The BBC's decision on Monday to pull the 28-minute episodes from CBeebies' bedtime hour has prompted outrage from parents who've launched a petition on Facebook for the evening transmissions to be reinstated. That just about takes the biscuit, don't it? People are outraged. They've actually gone to their pewters and are talking to each other about their outrage. They're forming a collective. They're picking up torches and they'll be marching on number 10 before you know it.
But if it put your screaming kids to sleep, wouldn't you want it?
Well, just video it.
In the Night Garden sounds like some period drama of kind of sexual awakening or something. It doesn't sound like it should be a kids' programme.
Well, it sounds like a John Peel show from the 1960s, doesn't it? Ruth Bodycott Wood, one of more than 60 people who'd signed this Facebook thing by yesterday afternoon, wrote, "My 4-year-old refused to believe it was bedtime because In the Night Garden hadn't been on, and it was daylight outside. I'll scream and scream and scream till I'm thick." Michael Carrington, the controller of CBeebies, said, what a job title that is. "Oh, hello, I work in the city. What do you do?" "Oh, I'm controller of CBeebies." I bet that's not what he calls himself, though. He'll be a director of underage, corporate entity or something. They'll dress it up somehow. He said he'd decided to refresh bedtime hour after parents had complained that it had become stale and almost boring. Parents had complained that it had become almost boring. It's for under 5s. Of course it's boring. Plus, it's supposed to put under 5s to sleep. So, but adults were watching this and saying, "Oh, this is a bit boring. I think I'll complain." It just staggers the imagination, really, doesn't it? To actually be motivated to complain about television at all, really, or indeed radio, or newspapers, or anything that's readily consumed media. I just don't get it. But there's no end of people who will.
I complained once
to
the news editor at Radio 1.
What is that wonderful? Radio 1?
Yeah, because I was listening, and it was just as I was getting old enough to be kind of at the high end of their audience, their target audience. So I was just moving into that no man's land of too old for Radio 1, but too young for Radio 2.
Yeah.
And I heard the
40.
news... Yeah, I heard the news bulletin, and they've really dumbed down the news bulletin, I thought.
Well, yeah.
Because I grew up listening to Radio 1, and that's where I got all my news
they used to have news, beat, beat, beat.
Yeah, and it was really good. And then I heard this news, and they dumbed it down so much, and like the weather was like, it's going to be chucking it down.
Yeah, so take a coat and an umbrella. Like, you can't figure that out for yourself.
But just the word sides, yes, I said, I sent a complaint, and I used industry words so he would know that I was from, broadcasting. So I got a reply, but he defending himself.
It was a diagram of a finger.
Yeah, that was it. It was a photocopy of his hand, yeah, with a one finger raised.
You oaf! What on earth did you do that for?
I was really bored one day. I think it was when I wasn't working.
Blimey, you must have been.
It was in green ink.
Because that's what industry types call complainers like you, the Green Ink Brigade. Actually, they call them the Green Teeth Brigade, but that's something else.
That's the only time I've ever complained to any broadcasting.
I'd be keen to
outfit.
find out if anybody has complained to the telly and is, prepared to admit it.
Maybe they'll complain to us right now.
0845 I haven't done anything to complain about yet, have I?
It doesn't stop these people.
0845 6060 973. Have you ever registered a complaint? For anything, really. 0845 6060 973. People have complained about the weather as well. Not about the actual weather, but about the description of the weather on the BBC. I think people sort of feel that it's almost their duty, or they've not their duty really, but they've paid for it, so they're going to. It's a part of the deal is that they can complain about it as well. The BBC. For many viewers, they look like giant snowballs about to descend on the UK. I wonder if they still do this, because I was confused when I first saw this as well. They put temperature on a map. Well, I'll read this, and then if it's not clear, I'll try and explain it myself. For many viewers, they look like giant snowballs about to descend on the UK. Meanwhile, in the bottom corner of the screen, it seemed like the lottery numbers were about to be flashed up, but they never materialised. In theory, these visual devices were meant to explain the wind chill factor on the BBC's weather forecasts over Easter. I saw that, and I thought, well, I wasn't moved to complain, but I thought, what is that? What is that? I don't understand. And really, if you find yourself not understanding the weather forecast, then you really do have problems. Then you should check your drinks cabinet to see what exactly it is that you've been drinking. In reality, they left viewers very confused and very angry. Very angry. Really. Were they very angry? The corporation has received a flurry of complaints about the white ball symbols, 6 of which appeared in a row at the bottom of the screen, below the bewildering phrase, feels like. And I didn't know I had got no idea what they were getting at. Now, the weather has got to be the simplest of all broadcasts, really, hasn't it? You could understand it if you're 2, and if you're 102. And any point in between. It's just a map of a place you recognise. I mean, there can't be many, although I was about to say there can't be many people who live here who wouldn't recognise a map of Great Britain. But actually, if you went out into the street and asked 100 people, I bet you get at least 10% who would have no idea whether it all looks like... Is that Saudi Arabia?
I wonder how many people can't place where their town is on the map of the UK
now
as well.
I would say that would be over 30%. You know, there's they recently asked people, who's the Prime Minister? What's the name of the Prime Minister? I think more people than not had no idea.
Yeah, everyone knows it's Tony Blair. Stupid.
I can't remember the exact percentage, so I'll make it up. 64% had no idea who the Prime Minister was. Can you believe that?
No.
7:45. LBC Travel with Alan Joyce.
Thanks, Nick. In the centre of town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
0845 6060 973 if you've ever complained about anything. I'll just run this until, until we just can't stand it anymore. But this is what I was talking about with the weather. Very, very angry people are. Furious that they put up some symbol that they hadn't seen before on the TV when the nice chap was telling us whether we should wear our hat, coat, scarf and gloves. Now, that makes me annoyed when they treat you like a bozo. They tell you whether it's going to be snowing outside, be 60 the winds will be 60 miles an hour. So remember to wrap up warm. As though anybody's not going to understand that. I find that irritating, but I wouldn't put pen to paper.
Didn't lots of people complain once the weather went from those little magnetic things that they threw up and it went computerised? Wasn't there loads of complaints that people couldn't understand it then as well?
Yeah.
People just don't like change.
Exactly right, yes, they do not like change.
Mm.
Even if it's for the better, they don't like it. I think that's part of the human condition. We don't, because it's unexpected, and we don't quite know the full ramifications of change. We much prefer, even if we're in constant pain, even if we're being tortured at the time, we don't like change. No, please continue, because I'm used to it.
Yeah, especially it's familiar.
Yeah.
When it comes to the weather as well, I mean, the British are very possessive about their weather.
Obsessive, yeah. And it's about to change significantly. I'll get to that in a minute. The corporation has received a flurry of complaints about white ball symbols, 6 of which appeared in a row at the bottom of the screen. This is at the bottom of the map of England, and Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland and Ireland. Yeah, I had to say that, because otherwise we'll get complaints from Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland and Ireland. Bits of France in there. I can see a tiny little bit of Holland and the sea, in case any fish are listening. This was apparently meant to alert viewers to the other... hang on, I'm getting confused at this. The corporation received a flurry of complaints about white ball symbols, 6 of which appeared in a row at the bottom of the screen, below the bewildering phrase, feels like. This was apparently meant to alert viewers to the other white balls hovering over the map of Great Britain. Oh, is that what that was? These contained Celsius figures, giving not the real temperature, but what the temperature would feel like with the wind chill factored in. Now it becomes clear. Why couldn't he just say it'll feel like this? In short, the aim was to tell viewers that they may feel colder than the official temperatures might suggest. Furious people were putting their crayons to paper.
Is that in case someone sues them for saying, you said I would feel 19 degrees and I felt 16?
Yeah, almost certainly, yeah. Traditionalists have called the moves patronising and say that it treats all viewers like children. Others claim, rather than simplify the reports for viewers, they actually make them harder to understand. Well, I didn't get it. But then I'm a dope. The BBC is frequently coming under fire for being obsessed with gimmicks for its weather reports. There was a storm of complaints in 2005 after it introduced a tilting 3D map which appeared to have shrunk the northern parts of the country. Well, they were colder. Bound to happen. So people could not see the weather there. Oh, come on. As a result of the protest, the map was re-tilted so that Scotland and Northern England were more accurately represented. In all, there were more than 4,000 complaints. 4,000 complaints after the introduction of high-tech graphics, many of them about the colour of the land, which was a muddy beige. I don't like Bran, they said. Staggering. Here's well, I don't know if it is or not, Ginny in Bromley. Hello, Ginny.
Hello, Nick. How are
Ginny,
you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good.
Have you been a complainer?
Well, yes, I have, yes. Now I think of it, yes. A couple of months ago, I phoned up the BBC to complain about their newsreaders.
Doing what?
Well, instead of just sitting there and reading the news quietly and normally, they've all started throwing their hands around and being all expressive.
Yeah, I think they've...
It's just not necessary. You just want to find out the facts, don't you? I don't want some sort of Shakespeare play going on.
Do you mean that the people on, what do they call it, in the field? Not the people in the studio?
No, the people in the studio.
Oh, really?
Like George Alagaya.
Crazy name, crazy guy.
Yeah. Talking. They have him sort of standing up and throwing his hands out and, as I say, as if he was on the stage. And it's just irritated me one evening, so I just rang up and said, I don't like it. Why are they doing that? Can you stop him?
Did you speak to a person?
I spoke to a person at the BBC, yes.
And what did
He wasn't very interested, really.
Right.
He said, yeah, we'll pass his complaints on. And it still happens, so there's just no point in complaining to the BBC.
Well,
It doesn't really get you anywhere.
you say that, but are they still putting those feels like symbols on the weather? Because I haven't seen it since, but then, mind you, I don't really watch the weather on the BBC. But
yeah, I've been listening to you talking about that. I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. I haven't noticed it.
right, well, perhaps they put it in as a tester, and then they got this wave of complaints, and then they took it right out again.
Yeah, when was this?
Over Easter, apparently.
Over Easter.
Yeah.
No, I can't help you on that one. I'm confused about that completely. I haven't noticed.
All right. Well,
If anyone did bother to complain, I don't think they'd do anything. They have a sort of service where you can ring up and pretend. You can feel as if you're doing something about your BBC that you're paying for.
Yeah.
But it's not, because they just fob you off. And George is still throwing his hands around, and no one takes any notice.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for the effort, Ginny. Cheers.
I shan't bother again.
All right.
Nice to talk to you, Nick.
Ta-da.
Take care.
0845 6060 973. I'm almost certain that a missive went round at the BBC for them to do exactly that, to start waving their arms about. Because before, when they're in the field, when they're reporters, reporting from wherever it is, they're just used to stand there motionless and talk to the camera, which is actually quite difficult. If you're in the studio and you're just reading off the screen, like the auto QZs are when they read the news, that's easy. Anybody could do that. It's just reading. There really is nothing to it. All you have to do is not burst into laughter when you're reading a really sad story. And there is nothing else for it. And you can tell that there's nothing to it if you watch, when there's two of them, if you watch the one that's not speaking. Because for some reason it takes two people to read one sentence. After the comma, the other one chirps up. And if you look at the face of the one that's not speaking, which is sort of counterintuitive, you don't do that. You almost have to force yourself to look at the one who's not speaking. The look of advanced, there's just nothing going on there at all. There's just nothing behind the eyes, just complete blank. Just waiting for their turn.
They always sit looking at the person reading and nodding along, as if they're going to turn around and go, no, that's wrong, you're doing it all wrong.
No, I always see them looking straight at the camera, because I'm sure that they have different colours. The script is in different colours for whoever's supposed to be reading it, so they're just waiting for their colour to come up, without a thought in their tiny little minds, mouth slightly agape, going,
I try to watch the other newsreader, normally, when I'm watching, because sometimes you get quite good expressions of disgust and stuff. You know, you can see if they get along or not.
Right.
There's a bit of rivalry.
Almost certainly not.
As if it's two female newsreaders at the same time. There's almost
I've
always...
never seen that.
Yeah, I have on the BBC.
Really? Two
Yeah.
female newsreaders at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that it was sort of an unwritten rule in TV land that it had to be a man and a woman.
No, not always.
And they giggle and
Talk about shoes.
flirt and, yeah.
No.
And then explain how many people have died recently in your area.
Quite
Whilst
often
trying to wipe the smile off their faces.
Yeah, but one is quite often giving the other a dirty look.
Well, I bet they hate each other. Like everybody in show business, it is, in fact, like no business I know. Dum, bum, 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 bum. The only point at which people will wish you luck is if you've got 6 months to live. And that's true. They're all competing with each other because there's nothing to it. It's just because there's no real talent involved. So it's just favouritism and whose face looks right. And if there is no talent involved, then the back scratching and the bitching must be absolutely colossal behind the screens. But what was I going to talk about? I got sidetracked onto this, and I was to talk about something else.
Weather?
Yes.
Complaining.
Right.
Kids show.
Oh, I hate when this happens.
How far back are we going?
It will occur to me as we go off the air.
Where did the tangent start? Was it this evening or a few days ago?
Well, tangents always start the moment I start speaking, and then we skite off and never finish a thought. But that's not my fault.
It's mine, isn't it?
Well, you're the producer.
Thought it might be my fault.
Oh, it's going to be really important too. If only there'll be another show in a parallel universe where I will come up with that thought, and it'll be a ratings hit. Unfortunately, we're stuck in this world. But the weather is about to change, very significantly indeed, and the wind chill thing at the bottom right of your screen will be off the scale, because the snow is coming back. Did you hear about this? Tomorrow it's going to be practically like a summer's day. It's going to be up to 63 Fahrenheit. I can't deal in centigrade. It never seems... 17 centigrade doesn't seem warm, does it? 63. Now you know where you are. You can remove your cagoule and loosen your scarf. 97.3, LBC.
What's small?
Sundays, LBC.
Affirmative.
The Maasai Warriors are coming in for the marathon. When's the London Marathon? Oh, an echoing silence all round. No one has any idea.
13th, I think.
How many?
The 13th.
Yeah.
Of?
April.
13th of April.
Yeah.
6 Maasai warriors who are so fierce they kill male lions with their bare hands. How do they do that, then?
Their bare hands are holding a spear.
Yeah, a machine gun at the time, yeah. How do they do that? This is rubbish. How can you kill a male lion with your bare hand? Well, they told the reporter that they do that, and he didn't dare to ask any further questions. So they kill male lions with their bare hands. They've been warned that surviving the perils of the African bush will be child's play compared with what they can expect on their first trip to England. The warriors are leaving their remote Tanzanian village to run in the London Marathon. Have been given a detailed 4-page guide on how to contend with the most curmudgeonly species they may encounter, the English office worker. This is a quote from the book. You may be surprised by the number of people that there are, and they all seem to be rushing around everywhere, the guide says. Even though some may look like they have a frown on their face, they are very friendly people. Many of them just work in offices in jobs that they don't enjoy, so they don't smile much. OK, hands up who believes that's true. Oh, everybody. I was thinking that the other day, they were talking about the tube on Drive, and Petrie was saying that she doesn't like to go on the tube because she just gets panic attacks, and she just doesn't like the sense of it anyway. I don't like going on the tube because everybody on the tube looks like they're dying. And you only notice that when you go away and you come back. That... you know, you walk around town generally, and we're not the healthiest looking people on earth, but that's partly to do with we don't get much sun. But if you go on the underground, I don't know whether it's just a result of the lighting down there, but everyone looks as though they're dying slowly. And you'd have to conclude that they're dying slowly from being on the underground. And the explanation that I came up with, correct me if I'm wrong, is that over the last 100 years, people's skin has been sloughing off them. You know, it's a fact that we all lose skin bits all the time. In fact, there's about, of an average night in bed, most people lose a pound of skin. Did you know that? So all those skin flakes have been blowing around on the underground, because they're not going anywhere, are they? For 100 years or more. And that's what you're breathing in. Other people's, I smell dead people.
Yeah, whenever I go on the tube, I start kind of coughing and wheezing.
Yeah. It's going up your nose and in your mouth and in your eyes and your ears and other people's dead bits.
And you blow your nose.
I know.
It's black. Soot.
So, that's partly the reason that I think that people look like they're dying on the tube, is because inhaling other people's ex-parts, that can't be good for you, right? Anyway, the warriors, who are leaving their village of Eluai in northern Tanzania for the first time, will run the 26-mile course in their traditional red robes, complete with shields and sticks. Has anyone carried out a risk assessment survey on that? Shields and sticks.
What if they mistake someone for a lion, like out of the corner of their eye?
They're doing it to raise money for life-saving water supplies back home. Good for them. The 4-page Visiting England, a cultural briefing for the warriors, written by volunteers from Green Force, a British charity which is working in their village of Eluai, also warns about the perils of timekeeping. You cannot rely on the sun to tell the time accurately, and will have to rely on clocks and watches, because the sun rises and sets at different times. That's right, isn't it? When you're at the equator, it's the same time all year round. They don't have seasons. It doesn't get lighter and darker like it does here. It's just bakingly hot, achingly sweaty, the whole year round, right? There's a whole section on manners, which are described as very different to the acceptable behaviour in Tanzania. Whereas at home, for you, it is acceptable to spit. In England, it is not. If you have to, you must do so in a sink or in some trees where no one is looking. Not acceptable to spit in this country. I think in some parts of town, it seems to be, well, the opposite of greeting, doesn't it? Just spitting in disgust as you walk by people, just to show how manly and tough you are. Or just generally on the top deck of the bus. Well, they used to have a sign at the front which said, not no smoking, no spitting. They actually used to have a sign on the bus that said no spitting. I can remember that. When nature calls, they are advised to seek out a public convenience as opposed to using a tree or a bush. Why? We do. While the guide praises a public convenience, there aren't any. Name one public convenience in the West End of London.
There's one in Soho Square.
No, there isn't.
There is, I'm sure that there is. There's those funny, like, aluminium
Oh, well, they
urinals.
don't count.
You know, I was almost tempted to use.
Well, you mean the
other day.
TARDIS, like boxes? That,
Yeah.
Right, well, that's not really a public convenience. You have to have 10 pence. You've got 10 pence. You have to have 10 pence to spend a penny. I don't call that public. That's private. That's a public convenience, like a taxi is public transport.
But members of the public can use it.
Well, I suppose so. But then, members of the public can quite easily buy themselves their own A380 and enjoy the trip to America in private.
Which members of the public are these?
Well, the Arabian ones.
Okay.
While the guide praises the warmth of the English people, the Maasai are warned not to take their host's generosity for granted. If you see something that someone else has, like a bracelet, and you like it, then the person will find it very unusual if you were to take it and wear it. Well, not in Peckham they wouldn't. Not if you're holding a knife at the time. They'd find it, just par for the course. The Maasai men who become warriors after tracking, running down and killing a male lion may struggle with the Green Force's interpretation of how English law operates. For example, if someone was to see a thief and chase after him, and when they catch him they hurt him, then the person who hurt the thief would go to prison as well as the thief. This is an example of parts of our law that they might not understand. Well, join the queue. We don't understand that either. The Maasai's shields and sticks, although permitted by the race organisers, must be left behind when sightseeing. I would recommend you take them. I never like to leave home without my stick. The warriors, who arrive in Britain next week for the race on... here it is, Sunday, April the 13th, have also been advised not to be too offended by the brief running attire of their fellow competitors in the marathon. You will see many people who are wearing only small clothes, and you will wonder why they are cold. And may think that is being disrespectful. This is normal for England, especially when it's sunny or in the evening. Or when it's snowing in Leeds. I lived there for 6 months. I know. Many people drink alcohol in England, it says. They do so at bars, in homes or at clubs. The English equivalent to a Maasai party. When people drink, they seem sillier or different. I'm sure you will have seen that with the Green Force volunteers. These people who go and help them out in their village. So that's the Maasai Warriors UK guide. I suppose that's as close to being an alien race as you can get without leaving the planet, really, isn't it? I mean, that's so far removed from our experience of everyday life, where becoming a man is to track down and kill a lion. I mean, I couldn't think of anything more different to the average everyday experience of us here. So that is essentially a guide to aliens from space as to what to do when they come to this country. What should aliens from space be advised to do when they come to this country? Suppose a spaceship landed here now. What would be... let's make a top 10 list of things that... I'll start you off. Always stand on the right. Very important. Except when you're walking up the stairs in the tube to the street, at which point you have to walk on the left. Which makes no sense at all. You'd think they'd, just get it straight. They do actually put signs up saying, keep left, if you're... I don't know, the whole world's gone crazy. Anyway, this is turning into another 2.5-hour monologue. It's a phone-in show. You don't have to talk about anything that I'm talking about, just anything that you like. 0845 6060 973. What does Judy want to talk about?
Apparently you spoke to her last week, something to do with election procedures.
What does that mean?
I don't know, but apparently she made an assertion, and you disputed it, and she wants to bring you an update. I was going to ask you if you remembered this assertion.
No, I've got no idea. I don't listen to this show. But go ahead, dial her up.
Okay.
The weather is about to take a massive turn. You might have heard about this. It's going to be very, very warm tomorrow, but significantly colder thereafter. After the clocks went forward and the sun came out, it felt like spring had finally arrived. It does this every year. It shows us summer and then whips it away again. Yesterday, forecasters poured very cold water on our hopes in the form of snow. The wintry conditions are expected to return in force this weekend, just in time for the school holidays that will start in many local authorities. These were delayed by some schools because Easter fell so early this year. By Sunday, snow, sleet and hail will hit most areas. The slightest warmth, and you do think, we're out of the woods. It's a steady slope down to a long, hot summer, don't you? And right enough, one year it did actually happen that way. I can remember going picnicking around about now. This was the year that it hit about 100 degrees and just was continually hot. This was like the record-breaking year. Not 76, but the one that was much more recent than this. About 4 years ago, something like that. Do you remember that? Can you remember that far? You even listening to this show?
Yeah, I remember I was leaving to go and live in America that year.
Right.
And it was hotter here than it was summer over there.
It was fantastic.
Unbelievable.
Picnicked around about this time and on November the 5th. And everything in between was baking hot. That's the only time that I can ever remember that it showed you spring early and then just continued with it. Because this very same thing happened last year. And then and in the back of my mind I thought, well, don't put your jumpers and your hats away yet. Because we've got May, June and July to go through before it gets warm. And I was right. I'll come back in just a moment. It's 8:15 now. LBC Travel with Alan Joyce.
Thanks, Nick. Upper Thames Street is...
Would you mind if I say a few words? Thank you.
We have a How Low auction going on at the minute. It's for a Toshiba Satellite Pro laptop powered by a dual-core processor, a 15.4-inch True Bright widescreen display, a sleek profile, built-in controls for easy access to multimedia entertainment, an 80GB huge hard drive. It is wireless enabled, and the bids end, or the game ends, what do you call it? Auction ends at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. If you would like to enter, text your bid to 88821. So text LBC plus your bid in pence to 88821. If it was to be, say, £1.50, you would text LBC 150 to 88821. Bids cost £1.50 plus your standard network rate. Lines close 7 p.m. tomorrow. Bidders must be over 16. See lbc.co.uk for full terms and conditions. Remember, it is a reverse auction. The lowest bid in pence that no one else makes by the end of the game, 7 p.m. tomorrow, is what wins it. Judy.
Hello. I'm sorry to hear you don't listen to your programme.
No.
You do it really well.
Oh, thanks, Judy.
I thought I'd bring you an update about my anxieties about... I rang you last week to say that in all previous elections that I've ever been to vote, they record my voting number from the electoral roll
right
on the stub of the book that the ballot paper comes from.
Yeah, I had my card in, and it's got a number that I would imagine they can...
Yeah, that's your voting number.
Right, okay.
So I phoned the powers that be this week.
Yeah,
who? I thought I'd bring you an update.
Who did you call?
The electoral people. And I explained to them that my concern.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd bring you some really good news.
Go on.
The gentleman I spoke to said they are no longer, since 2006, they haven't recorded the number against the stub in the book with the ballot paper number. So I thought there's good news. But he said what they're now doing is they will have a list of all the ballot paper numbers and they will write your electoral roll voting number on that list against the ballot paper number.
You've sort of lost me a bit. So they still know who you voted for?
Well, yes. And I said to him, so you mean you've got a list of all the numbers that are printed on the ballot paper, and you're going to put my voting number against it?
Right.
So you could still trace how I voted. And he said, well, yes, but he said it's going to be very secure, so do not worry.
Oh, yeah, right.
Now, guess how... no, but guess where they're going to keep it?
In their cars?
No.
In the street somewhere. They're going to put it in the street.
No, but it's going to be ever so secure. Have one more guess and I'll tell you.
On a laptop.
No, in a sealed envelope.
Oh! Now I feel better.
So he...
Because there's no way into a sealed envelope.
I felt so reassured. I thought I ought to tell you the good news, because I have been maligning the whole system, as you know, and I've been very, very anxious, as you know. But now the list is going in a sealed envelope. I think I feel a bit better. So I thought I'd tell you.
And this is someone from the electoral register roll, one of those people.
Yes.
Right.
So
sealed envelope.
We feel better now, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing more secure than a sealed envelope.
So when you go there, and you were going to follow my instruction and see if they wrote your number in the book, they will now be putting it onto a list.
Right.
But be reassured, because it is going in a sealed envelope.
So they'll know that I'm voting for Robert Mugabe.
I don't know what they'll know, but there we are. I just didn't want to be unfair to the whole system.
Right. OK, well, thanks for investigating that for us, Judy.
You're very welcome.
Cheers. Ta-ra.
Bye.
0845 6060 973. And we sort of relinquish our rights one by one, and we sort of shrug our shoulders and think, oh, well, it doesn't really matter, does it? You know, the cameras in the street that are pointing at us all the time, and the surveillance of our emails and our what we're doing on the World Wide Wait, and you know, the phone calls, and they'll be able to trace where you are by your mobile phone signal, and all of that. And we think, oh, well, what are they going to do with that? But some way down the line, I think it's entirely possible that all this might come back and slap us in the face. I can't think of what the exact circumstances might be, without going into, you know, the plots of films that I've recently seen. But it's possible that we might one day rue the fact that we've given up all of our privacy and secrecy and all of our personal details. In fact, the inventor of the World Wide Wait was concerned about this very thing, that, you know, certain search engines are now going to keep a log, well, in fact, they still do. They do already. A log of everything that you've searched for. And, of course, your internet provider will keep a log of everything that you've peeked at. And some way down the line, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that the insurance companies will hook up with the search engines and start asking what you've been looking at. And if you've been looking at, you know, I don't know about you, but every time I get a twinge or something's wrong with me, I look at the net to see the worst thing that it could possibly be. And if they see that you've been looking up cancer or, you know, whatever it might be, then they'll say, oh, well, right, so you might have that then, eh? So we'll just strike that off the things that you can insure yourself against. So that's just one small... And if that's the inventor of the Internet who's concerned about that, then, you know, we should have a pause for thought too. Just a thought. Let's have, is she there? Very slow. I'll wait. Take all the time you need. It's a live show. Hey, Joan. Joan. Hey, you know the guy that paints his face?
Yes.
You've been going to the Diana trial, right?
Yes.
Well, the guy that paints his face was actually singled out for praise by the judge, apparently.
Good Lord.
Didn't you read about that?
No, I haven't had a paper today at all.
Yeah, this was in yesterday's paper. Hang on a minute.
They haven't brought back the jury yet, have they?
I don't know.
It'll probably be out for weeks.
He's got up at 4:30. Now, just to fill in the blanks, Joan, you've been going to the Diana trial since it started.
Well, not exactly.
Pretty much.
But an awful lot since.
Right.
Maybe once or twice a week since about, I don't know, November.
There is, however, a chap that's been going every single day.
Every single day.
And paints the word Diana and now Dodie on his face.
Yes.
Or rather, he doesn't. Here's the story.
His sister does.
How did you know that?
He told me.
Oh, he told you, right. He's got up at 4:30 a.m. 89 times to secure his seat in the public gallery. What time do you get up, Joan?
Oh, I don't go up until a wee bit later now. I mean, when my son and I were going up at the beginning, we were going up in the car, and I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
That's way too early.
And queuing outside and everything. But then I decided that, because my son wasn't going up, I'd just go up on the train.
Yeah.
And so I get there about 10:30 or 11 usually.
Right, this guy, much more committed. 4:30, 4:30
every day.
in the morning.
I believe he gave up his
Right,
flat.
that's right, hang on a minute. Yesterday, self-confessed Diana superfan John Lockery got his reward. Mr. Lockery, who has attended every day of the inquest at the High Court with Diana and later Dodie painted on his face, was given a special mention by Lord Justice Scott Baker. Did you get a special mention, Joan?
I don't even think he noticed me there.
Well, you haven't got anything painted on your face, dear.
But I'm very, passable. He probably noticed my cardigan.
Possible.
You know?
Mr. Lockery, who gave up his job as a chef at a golf club, spent his 53rd birthday in court on March the 10th.
Oh.
He let out his flat in South London and moved in with his sister Geraldine to make ends meet during the hearing. He could spare little time yesterday to talk about the coroner's comments, as he was determined not to miss 1 second of the inquest. But he was clearly delighted at the recognition. They were very kind words, very touching, he told the Mail during a court break. It made my eyes water.
What did the judge say?
I bet it's the blue paint in his eyes that made his eyes water.
Well,
He said, it's been a marathon for me, and it's history. I've been a Diana supporter for many years. I've always thought it's a tragic accident, and here I am for the truth. He doesn't actually say what he said.
Oh. Well, that's a bit of a letdown, because...
Oh, he's just given special mention.
Yes, just...
Which is bizarre. Why would a judge single out somebody... I mean, even if they have... if they do look like that, with Diana and Dodie painted on his face, that seems a bit weird, doesn't it?
I think he did make himself very noticeable in many ways,
well, yeah.
as a personality. So it wasn't just that he went there and went away.
Oh, he's a personality.
You always felt that he
His
was
presence.
keen to show his presence in many ways.
He said his determination to be at the inquest came after a moment of revelation last September. Uh-oh. Just after the 10th anniversary of Diana's death, when he felt 4 fingers rest on his left shoulder as he stood outside Kensington Palace.
Oh?
I knew it was Diana. I've never felt so close before, he said. So I knew that, I knew what I had to do for her, whatever it took. All I want is to see that the truth will out. And it's terribly gripping. I've always been a Diana fan. Last year I woke up one day and decided to paint her name on my forehead. It just felt right, he said.
Well, there are an awful lot of people that feel extremely strongly.
Not that strongly.
No.
Mr. Lockery explained that for the first month he only had Diana on his face, but on November the 6th, Mohammed Al-Fayed asked him if he would write his son's name on there too, and he obliged. His sister paints on the 2 names every night because she refuses to get up early enough to do it in the morning, and Mr. Lockery lies on his back all night so that her efforts will not smudge. The question is, what will he do when the inquest finishes in a few days? He says, first I'll go on holiday with my sister, somewhere warm that will be good for my bones. Somewhere quiet where you can lie down, mate. That would be good. Here, Joan, I'm going to have to come back to you, whatever it was that you actually wanted to talk about after the new news.
Okay.
All right, stay there. Yes. 97.3 LBC towards 8:30.
Hello.
Hello, Joan.
Hello, Nick.
Now then.
Yes.
What did you actually want to talk about?
Well, I must just say that, of course, I was quite perturbed that yesterday was the last day. And
what are you going to do now?
And I need something more interesting again.
Yeah.
So I'll have to find it. Anyway, apart from that, I just thought I would have a little word about the hoodies.
Hoodies?
Yeah, because, there's been this big thing about should we ban them here, there, and so on, and everywhere.
Right.
And I noticed since then that there have been quite a lot more people, boys, men, putting up their hoods and looking in that sort of way as if to say, look, I'm frightening. And I've been looking back at them thinking, look, you're cute in those hoodies. You look girly. And do they realise they look girly?
Girly?
They do, because, they look as if maybe they're worried about their spots. They're hiding a few spots. Maybe they're worried their hair hasn't been washed for a week.
Yeah.
And, let's hide it all underneath the hood. And I'll look fierce and sinister. And honestly, a hood is a female shape.
It's a bonnet.
It is a bonnet. And I'm thinking, do they realise they actually do look rather soft, wimpish and girly?
If we stopped calling them hoodies and started calling them bonnets,
yeah,
they might wear them less.
That's somebody told them they look really frightening, and they don't look really frightening.
I suppose the thing is that it's the first teenage... Because it's the job of teenagers to do things that adults disapprove of. That's their job, right?
Yeah.
In much the same way as it's the job of little birdies to fly the nest.
That wasn't a very good tweet.
But the...
oh, lovely.
It's the first teenage dress that is all about hiding your identity.
Yes.
Before, it's always been about more look at me. Punks had, they teased their long hair into spikes and coloured it orange. Teddy boys had the quiff thing. Skinheads had no hair at all. It was all about showing yourself. Whereas the hoodies thing is all about hiding yourself. And I think it's a direct response to the cameras in the streets.
Oh, maybe so. And then they don't mind looking like a girl.
That had never occurred to me. But,
if they're really keen to do naughty things. But I think a lot of them have got the other side of it. Like, well, if the baddies are wearing them, we will look like the baddies without having to do anything bad.
Yeah. Well,
we will be scary.
Yeah. They've just seen it on rap videos on MTV. Guys in America who are pretending to be gangstars, or were and still are gang stars. They aspire to be drug dealing murderers, because that's what that whole MTV rap thing is all about. Yeah, look at me. I'm wearing all of Argos, and I drive a solid gold Bentley with hot and cold hookers in the back seat.
Well, this reminds me. I read this thing talking about gold something about Nelson.
Nelson.
Did you know that he got these special medals made?
Nelson was a hoodie.
And what?
Go on.
No, he wasn't. No, and he actually got them sewn into a particular piece of his uniform. And when he was just about won this Battle of Trafalgar, he actually stood up very noticeably with all these medals sort of flashing in the sun, and was very, very easy to pick out.
Yeah.
And they shot him.
Well, you won't do that again.
But this was a victorious battle, and he more or less, they think he agreed to himself. He wanted to die at that point.
Right.
It was funny, wasn't it?
Funny?
Yeah.
What, as in laugh out loud funny?
Well, I didn't ever hear that before.
Yeah, I'd heard that he flashed his medals and became more of a target. Yeah, but the part where he wanted to die at that point, I'm not sure about that. But then, what do I know?
Well, he seemed to be very, well, here I am going now. He didn't put up much of a fight.
But there is...
You'll get shot in the chest.
Yeah.
You don't do a lot of fighting, do you?
No, that's right. You just ask to be kissed, or not, as was the case.
Well, he said kismet. But his last words weren't...
Well, you seem very sure about that, Joan.
Yeah, but in his book, he said kismet, Hardy, as if to say that's it. Mm-hmm. And then he was asking for water and to be fanned because it was very hot. And what was the last bit he asked for? Oh, yes, somebody was actually massaging his chest to try and revive him. And so his last words weren't kismet, Hardy, but this thing about water and fanning and massaging his chest.
Right. Honestly, how on earth would anybody know that?
Oh, my goodness. Well, somebody was there. I mean, just like kismet, right? Yeah. Just like kismet, they must have heard these other words.
But, back to what you were talking about before, when you span off into...
I did, because you do it, and
hundreds
then
of years ago, I suppose so, yeah.
It's catching.
If we called them, if we sort of removed the fear that's associated with them, then they'll almost certainly choose something else.
Definitely.
If we stop calling hoodies and started calling them bonnets,
but as I say,
that might accelerate the process.
It's the ones who really aren't baddies who want to get the glory of being a bit frightening without actually having to do anything.
Well, I was in Berkshire, and I was, I just pulled up at a supermarket, one of these tiny little in-village supermarkets, and there were some kids hanging about. They were like 14, something like that, and one of them went in, he pulled his hood up, and he tied a handkerchief over his face.
Oh.
So that you could only see his eyes. It looked like he was about to hold up a stagecoach. All he wanted was crisps.
Oh, boy.
I thought that's actually turning it up to 11.
Well,
now you've gone too far.
Then they're a bit silly. Silly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not real teenage. When I was first a teenager, I remember
When you were first a teenager?
Well, yeah. I mean, you can be a teenager for quite a number of years,
I see.
can't you? Well, it was in the middle of being a teenager, actually, not the very beginning. And I bought a skirt that had stripes going diagonally.
Joan, you're not going out looking like that.
And I thought it was terrific. I thought, oh, boy, you know, I'm really different. I've got a stripy skirt going across diagonally.
Groovy.
That's it.
Yes.
That was it, really.
Oh, that's it?
I think
that was the sum total of your teenage rebellion?
Well, the rest of it wasn't very noticeable.
Right. Well, you've got your...
What did you do that was...
Well, I can't think of anything.
Oh.
I didn't have a teenage rebellion phase. I mean, I was sort of a weekend punk, but that doesn't really count. That was just all about the music. I wasn't sort of, you know...
You didn't have funny hair and everything?
No, I wasn't roaming around spitting beer at passers-by.
No, you didn't wear those safety pins then?
Well, a little bit, but that's, you know, only at the weekend. Yeah.
So you had a special safety pin suit for the weekend?
Well, that's not exactly how I'd put it, but yeah, I had a special weekend, not much, mind. I think it was something that I did painting in, so it was covered in paint, which was, you know, just the very thing at that point.
Oh,
people were going out, people were actually buying pre-painted clothes for your convenience.
Almost all my clothes have got a little bit of paint
on them,
somewhere.
yeah. Well, you're a rebel, Joan, and you'll never be any good.
Well, I am a woman of a certain age. Now, can you still be a rebel?
Well, that's what I was about to say. You know, if you don't get it out of your system in your teenage years, then women and men of certain ages can do it at that point.
I'm
because,
all for that.
Because you can get away with anything now, Joan.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because who cares?
You could, slap a policeman and probably get away with it.
No, actually, I couldn't. Oh, I couldn't. Right. I couldn't. It's funny enough, I attract a lot of attention when I go into shops. You know those security men?
Yeah.
They follow me around. They really follow me around.
Are you one of these nice ladies that wears coats in the summer?
No.
Is that a yes?
No. No, it's been happening for years and years, and you seem to think I dress in a funny way, you know.
Well, I don't know. Why do they follow you around? Is it because of your past...
They look at me as I come in the door.
Is it because of your past convictions?
And I come in the door and go, they've clocked me.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you sound very suspicious to me.
Well, no, it's a funny thing.
I've got my hand on my wallet as we speak.
Not much in it, is there, though? That's all right.
No, that's right.
Oh, well, I'll just have to carry on.
Yeah. You want to stop shopping at Lidl or Netto or whatever it is you go. Yeah.
Matalan? No, not Matalan.
Right. Fortnum's, somewhere like that.
Yes,
yeah.
I like that.
Well, listen, Joan, the best of luck. Try and keep out of trouble, will you?
I will. All right, then.
Because, honestly, around here, we don't know what to do with you.
Don't you?
But we'll come up
with
something.
You're supposed to be finding me something interesting to do, not of giving...
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Career.
Knitting or hang gliding or scuba diving or...
No, nothing like that. Nothing physical.
Right. Read a book. There you go. Got it in one.
I'm going to get a nice biography soon.
Or write your own. The stuff that you've seen,
the number of people that say, if you wrote your biography, it would really be interesting. Well, it wouldn't.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think if every single person wrote their biography and was absolutely painfully honest, then there's a book for all of us. It's the being painfully honest part that's where you fall down. No.
No, you have to be of a certain character if you're going to be brutally honest.
That's right. I don't think anybody has ever been brutally honest.
But whenever I've tried to write a story, and I think, I could write a story about 3,000 words long, I go down and down and down into the depths of something, and I don't quite know what it is, but I cannot sustain a story.
Right, well, don't start then.
Have you ever tried to write a book?
Write a book? No, absolutely not. Writing a diary is about as far as I got, and I didn't do that for very long. Hey, listen, Joan, I've got to go, because
here
comes travel. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
0845 6060 973. I would like to talk about the end of the world. Harriet Harman, shall I talk about that? Has that been done to death, her and her flak jacket? Because she came out and said, sort of defended herself, and then the Sun printed that on the same page as they printed a lot of reasons why she should, she and everybody else should actually be wearing a flak jacket. Do they call them that? Stab-proof vest. Flak jacket, right? You know what I mean by that. Anyway, that or anything else that's on your mind, 0845 6060 973. It's 8:45. LBC Travel with Alan Joyce.
Thanks, Nick. The M25.
Yowza.
So the Champions League is on tonight, and they had the Champions League on last night, and then they had the what do you call them? Edited highlights on much later on than that. But there's no edited highlights on tonight. That's very dispiriting, isn't it? I mean, on proper television. I gave up Sky Sports because frankly, there aren't enough hours in the day, are there? I mean, who can sit and watch football with all the rest of the TV and the movies and go to work and sleep? I just can't do it. Had to give it up. But there won't be highlights on proper TV. I think there's something clearly quite wrong there. Yes, Nick, you're absolutely right. There is something quite wrong there.
I don't know anything about football on the telly, so I can't agree or disagree with you.
Right. I did remember what I was going to say earlier on, by the way, and it was about the nice lady who had called and said that she was complaining about newsreaders who wave their arms about. And if you'd looked at the TV news last year, you'd notice that they didn't. Now they do, and a directive went around that newsreaders must now wave their arms around, which is a very un-British thing to do. I mean, if you're Italian, you're waving your arms around in your sleep. But we don't do that. We're very undemonstrative. And so to get them to do it makes them look very uncomfortable. And you can see it in their eyes. And sometimes they forget. And then there's an ecstasy of flapping, which has precious little to do with what they're actually saying. Because when you're thinking about moving your arms around, then you're not doing it
naturally?
Naturally, yes. So it just looks unnatural and uncomfortable and weird. And it's... but the missive went round that you have to do that in order to convey, to connect with the listeners and convey more easily what you're saying. But it doesn't. It's just... it distracts from what they're saying because it looks like some loony waving their arms around. Anyway, just a thought. But that's me complaining. And there's no end of people who are complaining about things. A soap fan won a £10,000 Tesco trip to Australia to meet the cast of TV's Neighbours. How about that? Now, can you imagine complaining about that? Where's the avenue for complaint there? A soap fan won a £10,000 Tesco trip to Oz to meet the cast of TV's Neighbours. Complained to Watchdogs that it wasn't worth the money. They hadn't actually spent any of their own money on it, but they thought, oh, well... The unnamed woman, her partner and 2 kids flew to Melbourne to be shown around Ramsay Street by the cast as the highlight of their free 2-week break. But back home, she called the Advertising Standards Authority to moan that the holiday, won through the Supermarkets magazine, wasn't worth 10 grand. The ASA dismissed her gripe. A Tesco source said, there's no pleasing some people. You win a holiday for your family, and then you moan afterwards that it wasn't worth the money that you didn't spend on it.
Because you wouldn't have entered the competition if it said it was only a £5 grand holiday.
Well, that's just... I mean, come on. Now, I've complained to people in the cinema before, but that doesn't actually involve putting pen to paper. Just, you know, turning around and asking them to shush, or get your feet off my seat, or, you know, whatever it is. Stop grazing like a cow. It says in the Sun today that Alex Ferguson likes to go to the cinemas. He tells the club magazine Inside United, "We prefer thrillers and good storylines. We go early so I can get my pick and mix, my ice cream, and my hot dog." How can anybody be that hungry going to the cinema?
I just can't get an image of Alex Ferguson at the pick and mix.
I can't get a vision of Alex Ferguson doing anything other than chewing gum, which he then takes out of his mouth and throws on the pitch as he's leaving, usually in what looks close to fury. At half-time, anyway. Then he goes and shouts at them. Then they come out and win. But there must be a mound of chewing gum right where he's standing at the United ground. But to watch a film, he needs a pick and mix, an ice cream, and a hot dog. How can you... You don't need a cinema, mate. You need a restaurant.
Maybe he was going to watch Das Boot. I saw that the other night. It was the longest film in the world.
It's about 5 hours, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it was meant as a television series, which they then just squeezed together, and I've had that DVD for, since it was released, which must be 10 years now. And I still haven't watched it, because every time you come to see it, you look on the back to see how long it lasts, and you think, who can sit down for 5 hours and watch that?
Yeah, you need to plan ahead for that one.
You do, yeah. You need to take the week off. Jo Parkinson has been to the Stones tonight. Is she going to be coming in?
Yes, she'll be with us at 9:30.
Ah, excellent. Now, she's been going to see the Rolling Stones, the new film, which is called, I can't really remember, it's by that bloke what does films, Martin Scorsese.
That's the one.
Yeah, who seems to be more interested in doing music documentaries lately than actual films. I suppose he's just done the same film over and over and over again. It's Robert De Niro playing a psycho. That just gets boring after a while, so he can't be bothered anymore.
It's called Shine a Light.
Shine a Light is the right answer. Yeah. And Mick and the boys were there, and hopefully she's had a chat with them, and we'll talk to her about 9:30 when she comes in. 0845 6060 973. He says, looking at a completely empty board, yet again, do I really need to say, have you had any difficulties parking?
No,
I
don't
know.
do it.
Well, you just kind of give up. That's the only thing that people ever call about, parking. All right, I'll do the noisy neighbour. Now, here's something that I would complain about. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm the world's most considerate neighbour. I don't slam doors in case it affects people downstairs. I don't play radios loud or TV or anything like that. I must be a joy to live near, because I know that I can't stand the noise of anybody else. I mean, any other noise from anybody in the building just really rubs me up the wrong way. Am I alone in that?
No, I can't stand it either.
A council spent £20,000 of our money to seize a stereo from a noisy neighbour, only for her to go out and get another one. Tracy Kirby tortured neighbours by blaring out Madonna hits all night. It took a costly 2-year legal battle to silence her, but noise nuisance officials could only confiscate her hi-fi and were powerless to stop her getting another one. The whole world's gone crazy. I mean, honestly, how can that possibly be right? I mean, I know the law is the law and all, but occasionally you have to sort of cut through it and just say what's right, right? Yesterday, residents in Lancashire told of their fury that Kirby has been allowed to continue making noise. They've been complaining it took 2 years. How can anything take 2 years to take someone's stereo off them because she's torturing her neighbours with Madonna all night long? 2 years. David Schofield, 33, said it's just been a total nightmare. We'd hoped to have heard the last of her and get some sleep. But she's got another stereo already. It's ridiculous. Her loud music is just torture to us. A councillor said if Kirby uses her new stereo responsibly, it cannot be confiscated. They took 2 years to take the last one away from her because she was torturing her neighbours. Well, what's the likelihood that she's going to have learnt her lesson?
Yeah, there'll be another 2 albums out by then.
He added, if she starts to be a nuisance to her neighbours once more, then the process will start again. In other words, it'll take them another 2 years to take that stereo off her. And people say that the law isn't an ass. Explain any of that's right to me. And when you read things like this, and you read, people terrorising neighbourhoods and throwing bricks through windows and scratching cars and letting down tyres and all the rest of it, you start to think we're a bit overdue some public vengeance.
Street justice.
Exactly. And there was a time when the Michael Winner films, Death Wish, came out, which was exactly that. It was somebody taking the law into their own hands and dealing out some justice, which I think reflected the opinion or the feeling of people at the time. Because it was the lawless 70s, wasn't it? Particularly in America, when New York was a particularly lawless place, even more so particularly more so than it is now. They've relatively speaking cleaned New York up, but other towns, murder capital of the world, and that was the sense that people in America had at that time. So the popular entertainment reflected that feeling. I'm getting the sense that we're beginning to feel that too, and there is a resurgence of those types of things in the media. People taking the law into their own hands and solving problems that the police and the courts seem unable or unwilling, or it just takes too bloomin' long to fix themselves. Dexter is a perfect example. A policeman. This is an excellent programme, by the way. There's a lot of great drama that's coming from America at the moment, and it's almost always from the cable channels, Showtime, HBO. It's of a policeman who, in his spare time, is a serial killer of people the law has been unable to touch. Superheroes also are like street vengeance. People who take the law into their own hands, and anyway, I'll come back. Here comes the new news. This is LBC.
Absolutely.
Joe Parkinson, our showbiz editor, is going to be coming in about half an hour's time, talking about the big opening of the Rolling Stones movie that she's just experienced over there in Leicester Square, having rubbed skinny shoulders with Mick and his cohorts. So that's in about half an hour. Thurrock first. Greg.
Nick.
Greg.
Nick.
Greg.
You balls, please. How, what was I going to say? Oh, yes. The discussion you were just had, a couple of points. One of them was the discussion you were having about the hoodies.
Yeah.
And the kids walking around dressed like they are. And what I find quite disturbing is something that would have put absolute horror in our hearts when I were a lad, that these kids are, they're dressing like their grandparents. I mean, you see old geezers walking around about 70 years old in tracksuits, bottoms and trainers and baseball caps.
Which they bought out of the back of a newspaper, and they call them action slacks. Yeah.
Is that right?
They do, yeah, with elasticated waists, yeah.
I find this really disturbing. Now, there is no, like, subcultures of fashion like there used to be with kids to shock and...
Well, what occurs to me is it's the first time that British teenage youth has taken on an American style so comprehensively. Because, am I right in thinking that in the past we've always come up with our own?
Not really. I mean, the rock and roll, you know, the Teddy Boys.
Yeah.
That was... But although they called it the Edwardian thing, it still had, it was still the greasy hair and the drain pipes, and that was still a la Elvis Presley, wasn't it?
Right.
And then, since then, you had the skinheads and the mods and the punks, and they were all pretty much English invention.
Yeah.
And all well and good, you know. And now there's this...
there was the acid, smiley face thing, but which was also British invention.
Yeah, that's right. But now it's been totally overshadowed by this this kind of sporty look.
Well, it's not really a sporty look because they don't even, famously, I don't know if this still is the case, but they famously didn't do up the laces on their trainers. So if they broke into a run, they'd leave their shoes behind.
Yeah, I mean...
So there's nothing sporty about it.
No, in practice, but the look nevertheless is the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got this overbearing sort of sports look.
It's black American prison wear.
Yeah, but it has
basically
changed.
what it is.
It's not changed for over 20 years.
Which is the reason, of course, that they all wear their trousers around their knees, because in prison they take their belt away from you, which makes your trousers sag, and that's what that is.
Yeah, you still see some of that, but not quite so much, because I think being teenagers, they soon become a little bit self-conscious of something like that. But they still embrace this whole thing with the baseball caps, and we don't even play baseball.
Yeah.
And it's the generic tracksuit.
Although, having said that with the baseball thing, I mean, if you see a bloke wearing anything other than a baseball cap, if he's wearing any other type of hat, unless he's a 50-year-old plus northerner in a flat hat, it looks a bit of a Burke, really.
Well, yeah, but it's a shame because you don't see girls wearing nice hats, or even women. You know, there's nothing to... I can't remember the last time I've looked at even a middle-aged or older woman and thought, oh, now she looks smart. She's taken a bit of trouble to choose a coat and a hat and a nice pair of shoes and all that sort of thing. But it's just this, all right the way through, up to grandparents, it's this generic sports look with the trainers and all that. It's just so boring.
Well, the thing is, Greg, once you've put that stuff on, you don't want to wear anything else, because everything else is, by definition, less comfortable.
Yeah, but it's never comfortable walking around in winkle pickers or
well, that's true.
S&M wear and things like that.
Yeah, with your legs tied together.
Yeah, believe me, yeah. But the other thing was there was an article, and it might have been raised on your station as well, about spending on credit cards. Did you catch that?
No.
And
that it's just gone up.
Yeah, it's gone up this month as opposed to last month.
Yes.
And I may have misheard these figures. I don't know, but if you can flash it up on your screen and analyse it or not, I don't know. But it said that it had gone over the billion pound mark.
What, that we owe, you mean, on credit cards?
Spent.
Right.
Now, whether that actually, being the news, it didn't really explain the whole story. So
no.
It could have been that's what's currently owing or what's been spent. And I thought, well, let's go for the worst option. It's what's been spent.
Yeah.
And the previous month was 900 million. So it's tipped over into the £1 billion.
It's probably what we owe on credit cards.
Well, you say that, right? But then I thought to myself, well, let's just do a back of an envelope job. And these figures just don't add up. Because assuming there's 60 million people in this country, right?
Yeah.
And the working population from 18 to 65, and a few more of the retired people as well. So say that's 20 million people.
Oh, blimey, this is one of these mental arithmetic things they put in the papers now. I hate those.
Yeah. 20 million people, previous month spent £900 million last month. Well, that's, you know what that is? That's £45 each.
That's not very much.
Well, that's nothing. £45. That can't be right, can it?
No.
So...
£45 each? That's not even a trip to the supermarket. Did you get that right?
That's for the month. Well, they said £900 million, which sounds quite a considerable amount.
900 million, almost $1 billion. Let's call it $1 billion.
Yeah, and
so
then
that's
it's
50 quid each.
1 point something billion.
Right.
1.2 billion or something.
So it's about 50 quid each.
Sorry?
About £50.
Yeah, 45 quid
per head.
Top.
Yeah.
So
that's nothing. We're holding ourselves back. Come on, Greg. Grab your plastic. Let's go.
No, I don't have it. I don't have any credit cards.
You don't have any credit cards?
No,
how do you function in the world?
I can't afford credit. I cannot afford... I'm certainly not prepared to shell out whatever it is now, 20-odd percent.
20-odd percent of what?
Well, the interest charge.
Well, pay it off.
Ah, yeah, but then when these companies are now saying, oh, we've looked at your records, you pay off every month, we're not going to extend credit to you anymore. So they got wise to that.
Oh, well.
But no, if I can't afford it, I don't buy it. That's all.
Blimey, you're weird, Greg. That's almost un-British.
No, I don't think at all. I cannot understand how people just shell out, or they don't shell out, they just splash the plastic.
Yeah.
And
you don't buy something if you can't afford it?
That's right.
What kind of communist talk is that?
Well, I do apologise. I'll go straight out tomorrow and buy myself a flat screen.
I think, yeah, or get yourself a passport and hike yourself off to somewhere that suits you better.
Well, I've got one of those.
Right.
But no, I gave that up long time ago.
I think you need to step into the 70s, Greg. Get yourself a credit card.
Not much chance of that.
All right. Well,
so yeah, if you could look up those figures.
Oh, I definitely will. I'll do that straight away. Yeah.
Sign over the keyboard and just see, because either I wasn't listening properly.
Yeah.
Highly unlikely. Mm-hmm. Or the whole of the news media is telling us
got
lies.
It right. Yeah. That would never happen, Greg.
Got the figures completely wrong.
No. We check and check and check again.
Oh, it must be me then.
Thanks, Greg.
Bye.
0845 6060 973. That's barely credible that we've, as a nation, only spent £45 on credit cards last month. Who doesn't buy things that they can't afford? I've never heard such a thing. I mean, we're known for buying things we can't afford. That's what we do. It's, over the last 10 years, it's kept this country running. It's given us the illusion that we've got an ever-expanding economy, which is all just built on air and a promise, because it's all borrowed money. Not just us, but the government too. They're just making this, essentially, it's all, this is why everything's collapsing now, because, our entire, economic boom is based on a lie. It's a house of cards. There's nothing there. Scary, eh? And it's all predicated, the success of the economy is based on how do you feel? Which is what concerns me. It's how do you feel? Do you feel confident? And the only reason that you could feel confident is that the press are telling you what a great time everybody's having. And now that, it's the same with the housing market. Do you feel, it is a matter of confidence. Do you not feel confident? Oh, blimey, yeah. And then everyone reels their neck in, they stop spending, and then, they stop putting their house on the market, and they stop buying, and everything just grinds to a halt, just because of how you feel. And there is a sense that you can talk yourself into a recession. Well, absolutely, because the economy is just based on, it doesn't seem to be based on anything. It's just air. Weird. When you don't make anything anymore, then you really sort of lay yourself out to just people's feelings. It's like we're running a meditation centre here. How do you feel? Oh, mustn't grumble. If you mustn't grumble, then everything's going super fantastically. Thanks for asking. If you start to hear a rumble of complaint in the background, sell everything and buy gold, which is exactly what people are doing. People who can. Sell all your shares now, because by tomorrow, nothing will be worth anything anymore. Book your place on the ledge outside the window of your high-rise office, because by Monday morning, it'll be packed. 0845 6060 973. This is LBC. It's 9:14. Here's Travel with Alan Joyce.
Thanks, Nick. If you're heading on to the M20...
Hello?
Hello, Bill. Dulwich.
How you doing, Nick?
I'm all right, thanks.
Regards this thing you was talking about maybe half an hour ago about the neighbour who was, like, causing lots of noise.
Yeah, the neighbour from hell, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a musician and I like to play loud music, and for years I had lots of trouble because, people would hear me playing the keyboards or my guitars or listening to albums at any hour of the day and night. And then one day I walked into a high street retailer and I said, what kind of headphones do you do these days? And they said, we got these things called cordless headphones.
Yeah.
And ever since I got mine, I haven't looked back. I mean, obviously you have to make sure there's two types on the market. One has a range of about 20 metres, which is rubbish, because it's only going to do for one room. But then you get the other ones, which have got a range of 100 metres, so you can walk around the whole house.
Yeah.
With stereo sound in your head. And, it's changed my life, because obviously sometimes I'm up all day or all night half the time with lots of music going on, but no one else can hear it except me, and I don't get any more complaints.
You are the perfect neighbour. There you are, you see. There is a solution, and this moronic woman... I mean, see, the part that I don't understand is, how can a person, knowing that her neighbours are being tortured, enjoy the music? That's the part that I can't get past. Because if I've got really loud music on, I'm concerned that I'm bothering my neighbours, so I can't enjoy it, because the concern part is bubbling to the fore. How could she sit up all night long listening to Madonna, knowing that it's infuriating her neighbours? I can't get my head around that.
Through speakers, yeah, it does seem a bit strange, but I just thought I'd phone up and say that, because it means if anybody's listening who does like loud music and was looking for a solution,
yeah,
well, now they've found it, yeah.
I know, technology rides to the rescue. You're absolutely right, Bill. And you can plug them into anything. You can plug them into your TV or anything you like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
No problem.
Cheers, mate.
Right.
Don't turn it up too loud, though. West Hampstead. Hello, Dan. Dan.
Hi, Nick.
Dan.
Hi.
Dan. Yes, Dan.
Yeah, this moronic woman with the music.
Right.
I mean, I think my thesis on this is that the reason why it took so long is basically it's got nothing to do with fining or money. If it had been to do with getting a fine out of her, the government would have done it in seconds.
Yeah, instantly, yeah.
Instantly. But because it's to do with the criminal justice system and going to court, that's why it took so long. I mean, I'm actually a police officer, and I know, we would love to be able to kind of have powers to deal with these people, but it's the council who have to deal with it.
See, this is an absolute nonsense, Dan. As a police officer, you should be able to break someone's door down and smash their stereo to bits.
I agree, absolutely, and we would love to do that. After, of course, persuading people, and it's all about talking to people. But with these sort of people, they cause misery for people, and
yeah.
I think the trouble is, like you were saying before, and I completely agree with you, this country has gone absolutely mad. It's crazy, and innocent people, decent, law-abiding, hard-working people are not protected by the law. The criminals are allowed to use the law to protect them, their human rights, and we can't do this and we can't do that.
Yeah.
And they're uncomfortable in prison and they want this and they want that. The government, fine. The government agrees with that. Of course, we'll help them out. But decent, hard-working people who want to use the law to make their lives, improve their lives, no, you can't do it. And I tell you, I mean, it's so frustrating for us. It really lowers our morale big time.
Now, when we're talking about this, it seems like, it's relatively insignificant. She's a noisy neighbour. She's playing her music. There's, no one died. But this is exactly the sort of thing that does kill people. You know what? Because people will start. I can just imagine it myself. I mean, my heart's going faster just thinking about it. And your life is literally ruined because you can't think of anything else.
Absolutely, and I know from personal experience, we had neighbours who were next door, a couple who were arguing, and when it started to wake you up and you can't get to sleep, it's a misery. It makes your life hell, and I feel so sorry for her neighbours. These people, I mean, I don't know how they're still sane, or they're probably not, but I think something really needs to be done. The government aren't interested, but I think, like you're saying before, people need to start not taking the law into their own hands kind of at an extreme level, but people need to start taking out summary justice. These people need to start standing up for themselves, because it's just horrendous for people to go on like this. And we actually see it quite a lot. People, the music's quite a common one, but there are, people taking drugs, and it makes people's lives a living hell. And decent people just aren't protected, and the government is the government's fault, really, because they just do not care about decent, hard-working people. It's in a way, it's similar to, I think, sort of parking fines. £120 for a parking fine, and a shoplifter gets £100. So
right.
You're being treated worse than a serious criminal if you park your car on a single yellow line. So, but I just wish we had more powers to deal with it. And we see cases like this every day. And I appreciate you giving me time to say this, because I think it needs to be voiced.
Well, Dan, the thing that surprises me is that there aren't more vigilantes. Because it's not like we lack weaponry in this country, is it? But is it just the stuff of films? I agree with you. I think we don't see it really, because I think people are scared that they will get into trouble. It's like if they're being attacked, if you're being attacked in your own home, people are too scared to do anything because they fear that they'll be put into jail. And I think that's possibly why. But I think we may get to a point soon where that will start happening. And, I feel sorry for people who have gone through the law. They've come to us, or they've come to the court system. The courts have let them down, which happens a lot. And people will, I think, eventually start turning to vigilantism, which, is pretty much, foreseeable. Or they'll start turning to another form of the law, which is what runs in Italy, and I'm sure Russia, is you go to the local mafia chief, and you explain your situation to him, and he deals with it with extreme vengeance.
Absolutely, and I've had experience in Russia. I've lived in Russia, and it's actually a fantastic country. But I've heard first-hand experiences of people who have done that. People who are harassing you, who are causing your business a problem. You go to the local guy who's well known, the local mafia, and you pay them, and they sort it out for you.
Yeah. Which is not a good circumstance to be in, but unless they fix it, because this isn't just you and me saying this stuff. You can't pick up a paper without something like this screaming at you out of the pages. Unless they do fix it, then something like something of that order will take over. If they leave a vacuum, which is I think what they've got now, of justice, then someone's going to come in there and fill that vacuum, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is definitely a vacuum of justice, and I think my idea is that people, you know, obviously people like yourself and me and other people who we speak to every day who are sick of it, we should form a party, or people should form a political party of people who actually want to create, you know, want to change things, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who would join. There'll be thousands, I think, in the UK. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, never mind about a political party, Dan. Let's just grab a pitchfork and a torch. And we'll start marching.
I agree, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's a great idea.
All right, thanks very much, Dan.
Thanks.
Cheers. It's 0845 6060 973. Jo Parkinson, our entertainment specialist, will be in talking about her brush with the Rolling Stones this evening in just a while. First in, Enfield. Hello, Jay.
How are you doing, Nick? You all right?
Thanks, yeah, very good.
That's good. Just subject about investing and paperless, whatever you want to call it, everything built on money or fake money or money that doesn't exist.
Yes.
Credit.
Right.
I actually buy and sell gold, and I have done for a number of years.
Do you?
I attract my customers through websites, putting adverts up in the right kind of places, and buy in at better prices than your ordinary pawnbroker would.
What, do you actually sell Krugerrands, or do you...
I get Krug. I have had Krugerrands in large amounts, and I have the single coins, and I have people's odds and sods that they want to actually get rid of that are broken or what have you. They go to their local pawnbroker, get offered approximately £2 a gram. I have adverts, I have word of mouth leaflets, and I pay up to £3. I will sit on the gold, and recently with the gold prices mid-March, the way they went up,
huge,
I did very, very well.
Well, I saw in one of the financial sections a couple of years ago, buy gold, it said. Huge headline, buy gold. Of course, it in the same paper, it also probably said... buy BA, you know, and all these other things.
I know.
If you had done, you wouldn't have done as well. But buy gold, it said, and if I had done, I would be, I'd be in the Bahamas right now, Jay.
Exactly. It's like property. I mean, fortunately for myself, in '94, I was an estate agent working in Golders Green. And I worked for a very well-known estate agent. Can I say the name, or is that not allowed?
Oh, it doesn't really... No, let's skip over it.
Okay, right. I worked for a very well-recognised estate agency, and I remember all my colleagues were buying Ferraris and Porsche 994s and looking at the business.
Right.
And I went to my manager with my lucrative salary, and I said, what should I do? And he was quite clever. He said, listen, the best thing you can do is stick with that Ford. I had a Ford Escort, F-Rage, I think it was on it.
Yeah.
And he said to me, you stick with that, and I'll tell you what you need to do. And I said, what's that? He said, you need to start buying property on either the Northern or the Jubilee line in some of these new developments. Studio flats and one bedrooms. So, yeah, I started to do that. And as much as everybody laughed at me, and I didn't have a bottle of champagne on a Friday or a Saturday night at the club,
right,
I got the last laugh in the end, because when everything shot up and I decided to start selling and looking at how much I've made, they're all broke, and yeah, I drive a nice Ferrari, and yeah, I've definitely can afford a few good bottles of champagne now.
That's the kind of advice that you get from your dad, and you don't want to hear it at the time, and you know, it's actually the last thing you want to hear, because it's sensible advice. Yeah.
You see, the thing is, my boss was actually he was actually a qualified accountant, and he was FSA licensed. He'd give mortgage advice and stuff. And I remember him sitting down with me, and I remember looking at him, because he had done very, very well. And he said, you will never make money in a car. Just put that out your head. Start buying studio flats. Start renting them out to local authority. Don't discriminate. Just treat your tenants fairly and equally as you'd treat yourself. And I tell you what, Touchwood, I've been reasonably successful. I've not had any problems. I've got tenants who are English, and I've got Eastern Europeans. I've got people who are unemployed.
You're going to have to wait a little while now before you sell those properties, that way.
To be honest with you, I don't look at it like that. I actually look at it, because unfortunately at one stage in my life I was unemployed and I did have to look for a property, and I remember how I was treated by some of these estate agents.
Yeah, listen, Jay, I've got to go, but thanks for that very much.
Take
All right.
care, Nick. You be
Cheers.
cool.
Ta-da.
Bye-bye.
This is LBC 97.3. Another minute. Oh, that's very annoying. 29:55, not 28:55. Oh.
It's still my fault, don't worry.
Is it?
Yeah, somehow it can be my
Oh,
fault.
I'm very glad about that. How could you let this happen?
Stupid.
Yeah, now I've got to fill a minute. Without a single thing in my tiny little brain.
We've done 25 of it, so we're doing all right.
We?
You. The royal we.
Yeah, okay, I'll tell you about something that's coming up, actually. The Olympic Torch Grand Finale is taking place on Sunday the 6th of April through London. It starts at Wembley Park at 10:30, ends at the O2 in Greenwich. That's the Olympic Torch Grand Finale. You can get more details about this on our website. We're going to be covering it on LBC. The website address is allthews.lbc.co.uk. That's the Olympic Torch Grand Finale, Sunday the 6th of April.
973.
I enjoy working with people.
Joe Parkinson specifically, you've been on the, was it red carpet?
It was red, yes.
It was a red carpet over in London's poshest Leicester Square for the Rolling Stones movie, which is called...
Shine a Light.
Shine a Light. Why is it called Shine a Light?
I did know that. You just put me on the spot. I knew it. It's one of their songs. Is it one of their songs?
Well, I'm not entirely sure that it is.
A song that Scorsese used in a movie? There's a link between Scorsese, I know that.
Right. I'll ask you another question that you don't know the answer to in a while. I'll think really hard. A very difficult one.
Put me on the spot.
Yeah, so, they all showed up? Did they all show up in one car, or did they just come in their dribs and drabs, or what?
Mick Jagger came first with Loren Scott, who's his girlfriend. They're not married, and, she's so tall.
Is she?
It's ridiculous.
How tall is Mick Jagger?
I think he's probably about 5'7".
Right.
And she's probably about 6'2", without heels, and she had heels on.
Really?
So that was quite funny. And then the other guys showed up, and Mick was a bit annoying, actually. He didn't do any interviews. He was, he strutted about on the red carpet a little bit, went to go and see the fans, did one TV interview as far as I could see, and that was it. Straight into the cinema with his bird.
Because that's odd, because you think, having seen the Stones a couple of times, Mick's actually the only one who does any work.
Well, I know, but it was the other guys that were doing all the work. Charlie didn't really talk to many people, but he's quite shy.
He's the quiet one.
He's the quiet one. It was actually Keith and Ronnie Wood that were doing all the work on the red carpet tonight.
Actually, Charlie is the. He's got to be one of the oddest drummers in bands, because they're usually the crazy one, aren't they? Yeah, they're usually the animal in the back, but he's the guy that wears the suits.
He's far from it.
Yeah.
And the great thing about this movie is, one, it's a fantastic gig. They did it at the Beacon Theatre in New York.
Right.
And you really get to see... You really get to feel the energy of the Rolling Stones through this film, and you get to see more than you would ever see, even if you were in the front row of the gig. You wouldn't see as much as you do on this movie, because they've got the cameramen in and out of them, and they hit a camera in one of the drums, and it's all these mad angles that you would never see. And there's this brilliant shot of Charlie. He'd done this mad drumming set, and you'd think he'd be really worn out after it, and he just sort of looked at the camera afterwards nonchalantly and just went, ugh. You know, as if he was so annoyed that he didn't want to be there at all.
Right. When I saw them at Twickenham last spring, I suppose it was, or summer, it did seem as though, apart from Mick, who he is a lesson in how to be a frontman to a band. I can hardly remember anybody that's as good at pulling in a massive crowd, pulling in their attention as he is. The others, it seemed as though they'd kind of phoned it in. They weren't really there.
I think that doesn't show in this gig, but I think they know that they're not going to be like that, because this is for a film that they're making, exactly, with Martin Scorsese directing. So Keith and Ronnie did put a lot of effort into this one, but Mick again was the star of the show, and it's like they show vintage footage, way back to the beginning of the 70s, and he's more lively now than he was back then.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw him in the 70s, and he wasn't running around half as much as he does now. He's like a little Duracell bunny, throwing himself about from the very first second he appears on the stage. And you can't fail but to get caught up into it.
I mean, I wouldn't like to say, but I think he's probably more with it now than he was back then. Do you think, possibly?
Well, there's more money involved, isn't there?
More money, yeah.
And I suppose if you're on a tour that lasts, for 2 years or something this has lasted, you can't really go out and party at night, can you?
Well, I think Keith did a bit. And Ronnie did, I think, a bit, but I think Mick's probably over all of that.
Yeah, but Keith doesn't seem to actually be human. He seems to have morphed into something else.
He is the strangest looking person close up. I wish I brought my phone up actually, because I took loads of pictures of him. But his face is so craggy. It's funny, and now
it's like he's in a character in a Star Wars bar.
Yeah,
like he's another species.
Well, he's become like the character from Pirates of the Caribbean, hasn't he?
Right.
That's what I sort of think when I look at him.
Yeah.
But he was loving it tonight, and we managed to grab a few words with them. We didn't get Mick, as I said, because he went straight into the cinema. But I said to Keith, how does it feel to be a movie star?
I thought I was one. It is weird, to do all of this. I'm a guitar player, I'm used to crowds and everything like that. But all of this is kind of strange. My grandfather, he used to play violin to the crowds. He'd be playing for you down there. He's a busker. And so in a way, I'm doing this for my granddad.
They are quite posh, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not, their image, which was sort of, we're not the Beatles, was, sort of slightly dangerous boys that parents wouldn't want their daughter to bring home. But, actually they're sort of, they're posh,
fairly well spoken.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
I mean, when you look at the archive footage, particularly Mick Jagger is less well spoken back in the 70s than he is now. And there's some brilliant clips of old interviews that he did with Michael Parkinson and these really stuffy BBC presenters who can't get over these boys who are taking drugs and getting arrested, and it's
not
really
wearing
good.
ties.
Not wearing ties.
Yes.
That was probably one of my favourite bits about this, is the archive clips that they use, because it sort of reminds you, how rebellious they were for their time.
Yeah, that's right.
But they're still rock and roll now, and it was a completely different atmosphere in Leicester Square tonight than it normally is for these premieres that I have to go down to. It was a better atmosphere.
Was it a big crowd that showed up?
Huge.
Really?
And all, Stones fans, and some Martin Scorsese, but mostly they all had their Stones t-shirts, and they were just going crazy. They couldn't believe that they were seeing their heroes in the flesh. There was people crying. It was like, going back to the 70s.
Huh.
And they were fun. They were on form. I love this one from Keith. We said, are you going to be doing any more movies, Keith?
Yeah, I've got loads. I'm going to do Gone with the Wind, and my King Lear is fantastic.
And that was that. I mean, it really was a bun fight to try and get anything with them, because everyone was screaming their names. It was a bit ridiculous. They did a premiere in Berlin, and they performed at that. So it was a bit of a shame that they didn't do the same in London.
Right.
But they were happy to be back in London.
It's just great to be here, and hey, there's some Londoners here, and I'm a Londoner.
It's very exciting, and nice to see a little quiet time in Leicester Square.
That was Ronnie at the end.
Now, I did hear that they weren't very keen to do another concert film, because they'd done one previously. But when they managed to get Martin Scorsese, then everybody sort of came on board.
Yeah.
And Scorsese then went and attracted many cameramen who'd won Oscars for their camera work.
Yeah.
So it must look really quite pleasing on the eye.
It's absolutely brilliant, and I keep saying this, but if you can go and see it at the IMAX, do that, because you just feel like you're there. You want to clap and cheer after the songs finishes. You want to sing along. It's incredible. And these cameramen, like you say, they've worked on The Last Samurai, also JFK, all these award-winning movies. So it's quite weird to get a group of cameramen like that filming a concert. But what they add to it is just amazing. And with Martin Scorsese directing, it's well worth it. I thought I'd be bored, because I thought, well, 2 hours of a concert and you're not there. How can that be fun?
Yeah.
But it was good. And Mick Jagger had said he wanted to record the whole tour, and the other guys weren't into it. They said to him, look, Mick, we're not doing another film. I think Mick Jagger wanted to, but like you say, when they got Scorsese on board, and Scorsese says, look, we should just film one gig, but it has to be a small gig, an intimate gig, and this is what I want to do. All of a sudden, Keith Richards was like, oh yeah, I like the sound of that, and Ronnie would too, so...
Because they only have to pay attention for one show.
Yeah, exactly.
Sleep through the rest of the tour. Yeah.
That's probably it, to be honest.
I think it must be a nightmare because they're at work, essentially, aren't they? They're in their office. That's what they call it.
That's what they say, don't they? Yeah.
It just must be awful being filmed, as well as having to, as trying to please a crowd, as well as knowing that someone's up as close as just inches away from your face.
I'm not sure that Mick was that happy with the close-up, some of them, because he's just pulled some really weird facial expressions that you wouldn't see if you were in the audience.
Well, he does that to reach the back, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It doesn't look so weird from 100 yards away. Yeah.
It does look weird on camera.
Right.
Ronnie Wood told me that they loved working with Martin Scorsese.
He's brilliant, yeah, because he's like one of the boys, it's kind of, he doesn't know what he's doing either.
I think he did, but there's great moments at the beginning. Mick Jagger wouldn't give him the set list until about half an hour before they actually went on stage, and so he's got to make this movie, and he didn't know which songs they were going to play in which order.
Really?
And so this was he's just going mad, going, what's going on? And the Mick's thinking it's hilarious. He was like, Marty's freaking out because I'm not giving him the set list.
But I suppose if you film everything, then it just you will essentially catch everything. It's not live. It's not being presented live, so you just go back and edit it for 4 months.
Yeah,
and then come out with the finished article.
And also, they didn't just film one gig; they filmed two.
Right.
So they did 2 gigs at this theatre, so they filmed both of them. So they had enough footage.
How long ago was it shot?
2006, part of the Bigger Bang tour.
As long ago as that?
Yeah, that was the 2-year tour they did where they played Twickenham and.
Yes, that's right. They're still doing it, aren't they?
Are they?
I'm not entirely sure that they're not.
I know that they were at the O2 at the end of last year, weren't they?
Right.
No, in August of last year, and I think that was the end of the tour, or maybe they're still doing it.
So what must they do when they're not doing this almost never-ending tour?
I think, Keith Richards, I read, just does nothing. He goes to the Caribbean and just lies on beaches all day.
Nice.
Mick hangs out with Lorraine, I guess. Ronnie actually, bit of an exclusive here. He does his solo stuff, and I'd heard a rumour that he was going to be doing something with Amy Winehouse. So I said to him, what are you doing with Amy Winehouse? And I think I caught him out.
Nothing. She's just a great talent. I mean, and I'm going to ask her to play on sing on my album, a song or two. And the Stereophonics, they're all my mates, and loads more surprises.
So that's a yes, then?
That's a yes.
He
definitely will be working with Amy Winehouse.
Right. I'm not sure that Amy Winehouse should actually be hanging around with Ronnie Wood.
No, probably not a good idea, but then she is hanging around with Pete Doherty as well.
Yeah, I suppose so, it can only get better, yeah.
She got chosen to sing on stage with them at the Isle of Wight Festival a couple of years ago as well.
Really?
Yeah.
So you recommend it?
I really do, and especially if you can go and see it at the IMAX. And even if you're not a Rolling Stones fan, I think it's worth it, because I've never been to a Rolling Stones gig, and now I sort of feel like I have. And I know it's probably not the same, but I'd probably rather go and see this than be at a Rolling Stones gig way back and you can't see anything. And also, because they knew that this was going to be for the film, they do every single big hit, so you're not waiting for the hits, it's just one after another after another.
And it doesn't cost £150 to get in.
Exactly.
Yeah. Joe, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Joe Parkinson, this is LBC 97.3, it's 9:44. Here's Travel Now with Alan Joyce.
Thanks, Nick. On the tubes, the Piccadilly line's currently suspended between Hammersmith and Hyde Park Corner.
Correct.
Now we have a Toshiba Satellite Pro laptop in our How Low auction at the moment. It's one of these that the lowest unique bid wins, the lowest bid in pence, what no one else makes by the end of the game, 7 p.m. tomorrow. You could win it with a bid of 1 pence. Somebody has won one of something similar to this with a bid of 9 pence a little while ago. Whatever bid wins it, it will be significantly less than the price on the shelf, that's for sure. To bid, text LBC plus your bid in pence to 88821. You're bidding on a Toshiba Satellite Pro laptop, 80 gig hard drive, wireless enabled. It's got the lot. If you were to bid 90 pence, you'd text LBC 90 to 88821. Bids cost £1.50 plus your standard network rate. Lines close 7 p.m. tomorrow. Bidders must be over 16. See wslbc.co.uk for full terms and conditions. Stansted. Oh, Pat.
Good evening to you.
Pat.
I just thought it might be interesting for you to hear. I live in a village, as you know, and I had the privilege of knowing somebody that used to live in our house because it's a very old house, when it was 2 cottages, and I got to know her really well, And she told me the sorts of things that went on in this village in the early 1900s. She died many years ago now. And she said if there were troublemakers in any of the cottages, they would tin kettle them out. They would get all the neighbours together. They would gather it, she called it eventide, which is a lovely name, when it started to get dark, with a saucepan and a wooden spoon, and they would just bang them right through the night. And they said it would, within 2 nights, they'd gone.
Well, the American Army did that
It's good, isn't
in the first Iraq War, didn't they?
Yeah. Well,
I think they were using Ozzy Osbourne or Metallica, something like that.
Anyway, that's what they did here.
Right.
And then the other thing, any youngsters, young chaps mucking about from another village, the boys would gather together in the village, gather them up and sling them in the pond.
Well, see, now that's a vigilante justice, which I was talking about earlier on. So it's not something that hasn't happened before. It's in the great British tradition, right?
I mean, it was done straight away. None of the adults interfered. They knew why it was being done, and the local lads knew that if you misbehaved, that's what could happen to you.
Right. And I think that part of the key there, that you just said there, Pat, is that it was done straight away.
Yes.
Because, when you're trying to train a dog, for instance, and there's a lot of people who act like animals, so it's a justifiable example. Then if it goes on your kitchen floor and you punish it 2 years later, it won't understand the connection.
Oh, no.
Same applies to people.
It's got to be done. Well, same with children. Got to be done immediately.
Yes.
Well, especially with animals, because they can't think to the future. So, if it makes a mistake, it has to be. Well, I'd never punish a dog for weeing on the floor, but because that's like punishing it if it coughed.
If it coughed.
Well, you see what I mean. I mean, the ways of doing that, but I mean, we won't go to dog training tonight.
No, not tonight.
No, not tonight.
No. Okay, well, thanks very much for that, Pat.
Okay, then.
All right, cheers.
Bye.
Yeah, you see, I'm not, this isn't crazy talk. I'm not like a lunatic. This isn't stuff I'm making up. This is how it used to be. It is how it used to be. If people were irritating their neighbours, then their neighbours would do something about it. I think the difference is there's many more of us, and we don't know our neighbours anymore. So there is no community. We can't sort of, as one, decide to take a course of action because nobody knows anybody anymore. We don't even speak the same language. We've got no idea who they are, where they come from. I mean, who knows their neighbours? Do you know your neighbours?
Enough to smile awkwardly at them and then...
Right, so that's a no.
Pretty much.
How about you, Alex?
Yeah, I talk to my neighbours quite a lot, especially my next-door neighbour. He talks loads, actually. I have to kind of say, all right, I've got to go to work now.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, but you're a freak, though. You talk to your neighbours. No one does that. Do you live outside of London? Way out?
No, I live near Tower Bridge, so that's...
Oh, blimey. That's very strange. Very odd.
I know.
How about you, Abigail?
She doesn't talk to anybody.
Oh, right. Sorry? She's not even talking to me.
I can't hear.
Never mind.
Oh, no, she can't hear you.
Oh,
I don't have
okay.
any neighbours.
Don't have any neighbours? How can you not have any neighbours?
I don't have neighbours.
Right. Is she... well, did you come to work in a helicopter? Or have you got 100 acres around your place? Right, okay. But I think that's the problem, is that nobody knows anybody anymore, apart from you, Alex.
People talk to their neighbours outside of London, though. If you go outside of London, people are a lot friendlier.
I suppose so, yeah.
And people have tended... I think a lot of people are transient in London, so they're not in the same area for a long time.
That's right. Yes. Transient communities, and there's, every building along the Thames, from Kew to the, through the city and on to Canary Wharf is transient. They're all of those executive flatlets with no cupboards. They're for transients. People who live there for 6 months, they don't have any possessions, because partly it's not their primary residence in a lot of cases, but they're, and that's why those places are so soulless. That's the problem. Nobody knows anybody anymore. So you can't decide as one to get your copper kettle and your wooden spoon and bash someone out the house. Ain't that right, Trixie?
It is. And my theory is that they're only 99% human.
Well, I think
Noisy neighbours, because
that's
you
an
don't-
overestimate, I think.
No, you see, you talked about the end of the world at the beginning of the programme.
Yeah,
You were talking about
May.
yesterday. And I was, there's another thing about these embryos, these hybrid embryos.
That's right, they've done it, yeah.
They're called cybrids.
Are they?
Cytoplasmic hybrids, and they managed to make them live for 3 days.
Cybrids, that sounds like something from a film featuring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
They're cytoplasmic hybrids. They take out the nucleus of the cow's egg,
Yeah.
and they pop in skin cells from the nucleus from the skin cell of the human being.
Yes, that's right.
That's right. Very good.
Very good
It's called
idea.
a cytoplasmic
Yeah.
hybrid.
Right.
But I think what's happened is those cytoplasmic hybrids have been allowed to grow out of control very secretly, and that is what's the cause of all these terrible noisy neighbours.
Right. Is that what they are?
Oh yes, absolutely. No, seriously. I wonder if are you going to be continuing this tomorrow? End of the world.
Oh, I hope not.
Possibly. Oh, what a pity.
Well, I've done it, haven't I? I mean, I didn't actually read the story in full. I just sort of mentioned it at the very beginning.
No,
But apparently it is coming to an end in May, the world.
Oh, in May? What's
May.
happening in May? Oh, this is interesting.
Well, they've had a direct word from God.
Ah, that explains it.
Yes.
Yes, and when did this happen?
6 months ago. They've been living in a cave for 6
Yes.
months. This is in Russia. Members of a Russian cult have lived underground for the past 6 months to prepare for the imminent destruction of the planet.
Oh.
They left their cave yesterday after it began to collapse around them.
Oh, dear.
Followers of an engineer turned prophet who reportedly sleeps in a coffin were persuaded to leave their man-made bunker after melting snow caused part of the roof to cave in. The sky is falling.
Oh, yes, Henny Penny said, chicken licking, help, yes.
What?
No, that was a story that my mother taught me when I was a little girl. The sky is falling, the sky is falling. And everybody was chasing chicken licking, and Fox Locks eventually got them all.
Right.
Oh, well, you didn't really need to know that.
No, I didn't. No.
But anyway, yes, cybrids. It's a lovely name, and it looks like the technology is going to go ahead with or without the OK of this new bill. So this might be the end of the world. You were talking about the black hole that we may or may not create.
Yes, well, if the black hole doesn't get us, then the sky falling in certainly will, yeah.
Yes, all the cytoplasmic hybrids.
Yeah, or those hybrids will start breeding out of control.
Cybrids.
And,
cytoplasmic hybrids.
And they'll join up with those microscopic robots.
Oh, yes.
And suddenly we'll be in a sea of grey goo.
Oh, precisely, yes. And we'll have it'll just be marvellous.
Yeah.
We'll be back to the beginning of life as we didn't know it, because we weren't sort of... what is the word I'm looking for?
I've got no idea, Trixie.
Never mind. I thought you might be able to find it. What's cognitive?
No, I was still thinking about drowning in grey goo. I'll go surfing
You
on
want to go drowning in grey goo? Oh, all right. Okay. Sounds good to me. You realise you can't call me dear at the end of this, don't you?
it. Well, because it's
I'll sue you.
unpleasantly sexist, yeah. But you can call me dear.
Can I?
Yeah, around the other way.
Oh,
Perfectly
really?
acceptable, yeah.
So I can call you darling.
Well, I think that's stretching it a bit.
That's stretching it a bit. All right. Now, I wouldn't call you dear. It doesn't suit you, I tell you that.
All right, I'll do it to you. Cheers, my dear. Hello.
Bye.
Now then, what we talked about tonight?
We have talked about cannabis being upgraded to Class B, the planet being flattened, complaining to TV stations, Iggle Biggle, Oopsie Daisy and Macca Packer.
Macca Packer, yeah.
Very important.
Macca Packer, like
Radio 1 News being dumbed down, the symbols
Radio
on
1.
the weather forecast, newsreaders being over-expressive with their arms, the London Marathon,
Waving them about.
warriors, killing lions with your bare hands.
That's right, they do that.
Shedding skin on the underground and breathing it in hundreds of years later.
Ew.
The heat wave, or lack thereof.
Oh, there will be one, a mini one tomorrow, and then freezing to follow.
I shall check back with you on that
Hat,
tomorrow night.
coat,
Election
scarf,
procedures.
and gloves. Yes.
A bloke going to diner inquest every day.
Right.
Hoodies make you look girly. Nelson's last words.
Oh, no, fresh out of time. Clive's next on LBC.
Good evening, it's LBC 97.3. I'm Clive Bull with you till 1 o'clock. Coming up, your call on the topic of your choice. And some of the topics we might get onto between now and 1. Distracting posters by the roadside and too many road signs. Do they put you off your driving? Bad service, faulty goods, do you bother to complain? And more to the point, what's the best way to get results? And drinking lots of water is good for you. Or is it? 0845 6060 973 is the number to call, and you can text 84850.